Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. This is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
Special recap edition for Joshua.
Yes, so this is Thursday afternoon. We had a morning edition with chapters 23 and 24, finishing the book. But now we're doing our recap edition, and we're taking our drone up, and we're looking at the whole book and kind of summarizing the summaries.
Yeah. And so in your book, if you have a book, you don't have a lot of space for Joshua, but I wrote these micro summaries, is what I'm calling them, down at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
And
I put mine in the notes section in the back because I had already written on the bottom.
Okay. And I think in a next edition, as I write Bible summaries for 27 and 28, I'll include a section where you can write your micro summaries. And I think the purpose of these micro summaries, or you even said macro summaries, like we're summarizing the summaries, is that it would be helpful for you even to work on memorizing these really short summaries of
we've tried to make them just a few words so that they would be memorizable.
Yes, and so even as we met before we did this podcast, we were kind of going through each of them and just evaluating every single word. Is that a word we need? Can we cut it shorter? Can we cut it shorter? And you got to leave a lot of things out. But like this is what would be helpful perhaps even to memorize, to associate with different chapters. And you'd be surprised how well your Bible memory will go up if you take some time and really try to work through, as if you had a test, 1 through 24, and try to write just a short phrase about what happens in each chapter from memory. Like that will really help you kind of grasp the book of Joshua in the big picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take the drone up. We're going to basically summarize our summaries.
Right.
So the biggest overview of Joshua is...
Yes, we've got two parts, and 1 through 12 is conquering the land, which really includes preparing to conquer the land and then doing the battles.
Yep.
And then 13 through 24 is dividing and settling the land.
Settling the land, yeah. And I think that's a big, like if you can put that even on maybe your summary, just put a line between 12 and 13 and conquering the land above the line and then settling the land below the line.
Bracket 1 through 12 and bracket 13 through 24.
Yeah. However you want to do that. Okay, so let's just talk through like each of these chapters.
Well, yeah, and just this is coming after they have wandered through the wilderness, after having been slaves in Egypt, and now they are finally entering the land, which is the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham to give them this land.
Yep. And in chapter 1, we see God commissioning Joshua replacing Moses, who was coming before this. So like all of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy was all about Moses. And then Moses died and Joshua takes over in chapter 1. Have God commissions Joshua. Yeah,
and I've just been really noticing just what a privileged generation this is, that they're the ones who are finally going to get to go into the land. Mm-hmm. So, here's the details.
Okay, so God commissions Joshua in chapter 1. And then chapter 2, I think, if you just remember Rahab.
Yeah, one word would do it.
Just associate Joshua 2 with Rahab. Mm-hmm. But we had Rahab hides the spies.
Yep. So. Chapter 3, Israel crosses the Jordan.
Yep. And so if you remember, this is where it's similar to the Red Sea.
Right.
Where the souls of the priests enter into the river. And
like the feet, those kind of souls.
Yeah. And it opens up and they cross the Jordan. Once they
on
cross,
dry land.
Yeah, once they cross, then it closes up. And then in chapter 4, you have these 12 stone memorials. You have 2 of them.
Yes, one on the bank outside the river and one in the middle of the river before the waters closed up.
Yep, one on the western side and one in the middle of that.
So we wrote 2 memorials with 12 stones each.
Okay, well, I just put 2 12-stone memorials.
Okay, that works.
Is how I put.
Okay,
and then chapter 5, there's lots that happens in chapter 5 in terms of Israel kind of, now they're in the land, they haven't conquered anybody yet, but they... are circumcised and they keep the Passover and the manna stopped. But then I think the very unique thing about this chapter is the captain of the Lord's host.
Yeah, which is kind of, I think, symbolic of God being with them as they go out for these battles.
Mm-hmm. And probably the pre-incarnate Jesus, who's here going to fight for the people of Israel, is who that is. Okay.
Yeah, so chapter 5, captain of the Lord's host.
Yep. In chapter 6, we have...
Battle of Jericho.
Yep, so there's a little song, right? So maybe even you remember it, like 6 looks like a little note, like a musical note.
Oh, like Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho.
And they say Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, Jericho. And then so that's what happened in Joshua chapter 6. And then in chapter 7...
we have Ai defeats Israel Achan stoned.
Yeah, and remember that's all where they were overconfident. They thought they'd be able to do it. They only sent a few people. And it turns out it's because Achan had transgressed the command in conquering Joshua not to take any of the loot. And Achan took that, and he and his family were stoned and burned.
Right. So they were punished for that. And then in 8, God blessed them with a victory. So chapter 8 would be I destroyed, whole law read.
Yeah, and I think that first part about I destroyed, remember that's where they suckered them out, kind of pulled them out, and then they ambushed them from behind, and they burned the whole city. And then what is crucial is that in chapter 8, the whole law is read. I mean, there's like on Mount Gerizim and Ebal, half the people on Mount Gerizim, half the people on Mount Ebal, according to Deuteronomy 27. And so there's like a lot of details there, but if you can remember the whole law read, I think that's a good way to say it. Yep. Chapter 9, it's real easy.
The Gibeonites' deception.
Yep. And so that is dwindled down from, I really like my summary that says, the fearing Gibeonites deceived the non-praying Israelites. And you're commenting about these Gibeonites.
Yeah, I really think they had some faith. They were afraid of the Israelites because they knew about the power of God. And so I think there was a sense where they feared God and they trusted that God actually would defeat all of Israel's enemies. And because also we are told that all the other nations fought against Israel because God hardened their hearts. And but that wasn't true of Gibeon. Their hearts were not hardened. They were deceptive, but I think there was some faith there.
It's interesting in Hebrews 11, it's verse 22, I think, that says that even by faith Rahab the harlot did not perish along with those who are disobedience after she had welcomed the spies in peace. And so Rahab and the Gibeonites are much like the same sort of people. Like fearing, and she even said, right, the fear and dread of you has come upon all of us. And so she chose to hide the spies so as to, be shown favor, and she was saved. And the Gibeonites had the same fear. So I put the fearing Gibeonites deceive the non-praying Israelites. It's not quite right to say the God-fearing Gibeonites, but there's very much a sense there that they understood that God was with the Israelites, and they feared them and feared the power of the Lord, and so they deceived these Israelites to make a covenant with them. So that's like chapter 9. So even if you remember a word like chapter 2, Rahab, chapter 5, Captain of the Lord's host, chapter 6, the Battle of Jericho, 7 and 8, Ai, chapter 9, Gibeonites. Like, just associate these chapter numbers with just one word even would be a super help to you. Okay, and now we're going to pick up some speed. In chapter 10, what do we have?
South defeated, parentheses, hailstones, stopped sun. So there's a lot that happens in that chapter, but basically it's describing how the southern cities or southern nations were defeated.
So even if you, in chapter 10, just the south defeated. And we put the details there because those are significant because it shows that it's not by the arrow or sword that Israel is succeeding. It's by God sending hailstones and stopping the sun so they have a little bit extra time to fight. But 10 is the south defeated and 11 is the north defeated. So you remember I said that they divide and conquer.
Because they did divide the land in the sense of they came in with their battles in the middle of the country, then they went down, defeated the south, then they went up and defeated the north. So
so that's true, but also right, they conquered and then they're going to divide them to be in chapter 13
up for the tribes.
And then in chapter 12, like they finished conquering the land, and chapter 12 has a summary of the conquered kings. And we debated about even yours. Do you have a summary of?
I wrote a summary of all conquered kings.
And that's because there's even a summary of the kings conquered by Moses.
So Sihon and Og on the eastern side of the Jordan, and then 31 on the western side of the Jordan.
So that's why maybe a summary of all the conquered kings might be helpful there. Okay, and now at this point in chapter 13 and following, we're settling the land. Basically, we're setting up boundaries for all the tribes.
It's like part 2 of Joshua.
Okay, so in chapter 13, we have a list. I'm calling it boundaries for the 2.5 eastern tribes. That was your idea, 2.5. But it's just the eastern tribes. So like if you settle the land, and first you have to go to the 2.5 tribes that are on the eastern side of a land, and it portioned out what the boundaries of those of that land was. Okay, chapter 14.
Caleb chooses Mount Hebron.
Okay, and I think it's significant here that Joshua and Caleb were the two believing spies that were sent out initially into land in Numbers 13 and 14 to spy out the land. Mm-hmm. Joshua is the one then who leads everybody, and he gets land. His land is allotted.
It's right at the end, 20.
Yeah, it's way at the end. Yeah, that's what I thought. But Caleb's land is allotted right here at the beginning. And he chose Hebron, where the Anakim were, that turned all the other 10 tribes, 10 spies away. He said, I want that land. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, 15, 16, 17, I mean, these are all the same. Land for Judah, land for Ephraim, land for Manasseh.
Yep, so that's 15, 16, 17.
Yep, we're just zipping through this now. And then in 18, we see...
Land surveyed.
Okay, this is when they sent some people into the land, just said, okay, let's portion it into 7 equal portions for the people. And so then they're going to cast lots for the 7 remaining tribes, because you got 2.5 on the east, and then you have
Judah, Ephraim,
and then half of Manasseh. That's the other half on the west. That's 5 tribes. You have 7 left, and so they survey the land, divide it into sevenths, and they cast lots. And the first lot in chapter 18 is
Benjamin's.
And then in 19 we see
the land for the remaining 6 tribes.
The lots for the remaining 6 tribes. So those are chosen by lot, and then they are settled. Okay, and then in chapter 20...
cities of refuge, and then parentheses, KSHBRG.
Okay.
First letter of each of the names of the cities, which you could pronounce as Kishberg.
Kishberg, yep. So these are 6 cities of refuge: Kishberg, Kadesh, Shechem, Hebron, Bezer, Ramoth, Golan. Yep.
And that's for the unintentional murder.
That's people. Right. Okay, in chapter 41, we have...
21.
21.
The 48 Levite cities, promises fulfilled.
Yeah, and that, remember, the Levites didn't have a tribe, so they were priests. They were distributed throughout all the different territories, so they got their 48 cities here.
Right, and then at the end of 21, there's like 3 really important verses about how God fulfilled all his promises. Mm-hmm. And so to sum that up, we wrote promises fulfilled.
Yep. Okay, and then chapter 22, it's kind of like the end of all the settling of the land. We have...
Eastern tribes return home.
Yeah, and you remember that's the chapter with a story about this misunderstood altar.
Right.
Where they had good intentions, but it could easily be misunderstood about you're building an altar on that side. No, the altar should be only at Jerusalem. But they return home because remember their children and women had stayed home so that the eastern tribes had come and fought, clear out the land, and then they return home. So like all is settled. And then finally, in the last 2 chapters, 23 and 24...
we have Joshua's farewell.
Yeah, and so even if you want to summarize 23 and 24 with just that, Joshua's farewell, but there's so many good details here that I put Joshua's farewell : in chapter 23, I put that God fought.
Yeah.
Just a couple times it just says that God fought for you. God fought for you. And also, if you have room...
didn't fail,
and he didn't fail.
Promises didn't fail.
Yeah, because here's another one of those great promises in chapter 23, verse 14. Not one word has failed of all the good things that Lord your God promised concerning you. All came to pass for you. Not one of them has failed. So God fought for you, and he didn't fail.
Yeah.
Okay, and then chapter 24, last one.
24, I put ... like because it's a continuation of Joshua's farewell. And then history and pledge to serve.
Okay, and that's where 3 times they say, we will serve the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is our micro summary, if you will. Just 15 minutes on the book of Joshua, trying to give you the big picture of it, how they conquered the land and settled the land. They conquered it through some great ways, through marching around a city. And
God fought for them.
Yeah.
And all of his promises were fulfilled.
That's good. That's a good way to summarize. Okay, so this is a special recap edition. Tomorrow morning, we will begin in the book of Judges. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, though, it's your least favorite book of the Bible.
Yeah, I don't like Judges very much, but...
You say a lot of disturbing things.
Disturbing things, yeah.
Okay, but
It's what it is.
It's what it is. It's God's word. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.